I hope you can see this. Tonight's training, albeit very late, and I apologize, is how we measure ice and snow. And without further ado or even introductions here, I'm going to move on. I hope to teach you what determines whether we get rain, freezing rain, sleet, or snow, how we measure the ice and snow, and how we report those measurements to the National Weather Service. It's important to the Weather Service because we do provide the ground truth to them. It helps them improve predictions of impacts to the public and improves their watch warning criteria or watch advisory criteria as they get those reports in. What are the impacts of snow and ice? Well, heavy snow and ice can immobilize a region and paralyze cities, stranding commuters, close airports, stop flow of supplies, disrupt emergency and medical services, as we saw the other day. The weight of snow and ice can cause roofs to collapse and knock down trees and power lines. Power outage problems, and I hope no one had those the other day when we had our ice and traffic problems. So, what determines the type of precipitation? The vertical distribution of temperature will often determine the type of precipitation: rain versus snow versus sleet versus freezing rain. And this occurs at the surface. So, you'll see that a warm front um, in this case, there's warm air moving in, and it's riding in over either warm air or cold air. And depending on how much cold air the precipitation falls through determines the type of precipitation that we receive. So here's the profiles. With rain, it's just warm all the way to the ground. With sleet, there's a brief moment where the snowflakes thaw and then refreeze, and they come down in little pellets that bounce. Snow stays snow from the clouds above to the ground below. And if I can move that out of my way. Freezing rain actually um, will start as snowflakes, will thaw and refreeze, or and will thaw, come down as rain that hits that cold air, and anything it touches that is 32 degrees or below, it will freeze on. Sleet occurs with that partial melt when they fall through a shallow layer of warm air. The slushy drops refreeze as they fall through a deep layer of freezing air above the surface, eventually reach the ground as frozen raindrops. Kind of talked about the freezing rain when the snowflakes descend into a warm air layer of air. They do melt completely. When the liquid water drops fall through another thin layer of freezing air just above the surface, they don't have time to refreeze before reaching the ground because they are supercooled. They instantly freeze on contact. Snow, most precipitation that forms in the wintertime, whether it be sleet or freezing rain or snow, starts as snow in the clouds, and the snowflakes are just collections of ice crystals that cling to each other as they fall to the ground. The precipitation continues to fall as snow when the temperature remains at or below 32 degrees from the cloud base to the ground. And here's a depiction of that. There's no melting occurring with the snow. The snow melts and refreezes before it hits the surface for sleet. Freezing rain, the snow melts and refreezes on contact with surface. And rain, snow melts and does not refreeze. So, yes, our winter precipitation as rain also starts as snow. How do we measure the ice from freezing rain? Let's just get to the nitty gritty. Ice accumulation from freezing rain does not coat the surface of objects evenly. Gravity will usually cause the rainwater to run to the underside of an object before it freezes, and you'll see that in the icicles that hang down. Wind can create the same effect. In either case, the result would be a thicker coating of ice on one side of the object compared to the opposite side. So, what do we do with that? Well, we can accurately estimate, that seems like an oxymoron, the thickness of ice with the method below. You will need a ruler and possibly a piece of paper and a pencil. So find an ice covered object out in the open, a tree limb, something that has had a pretty good open avenue for the rain to fall onto. Small tree branch in the middle of the yard, usually the easiest to handle. Move to a position where you can see both the thickest and thinnest portions of the ice that's coating the object. Use the ruler to measure the thickest part of the ice from the edge of the object to the edge of the ice. Record that value. Then, in a similar fashion, measure the thinnest part of the ice from the edge of the object to the edge of the ice and record that value on your paper. Add those two values together and divide by 2. And I'll show this in the next slide. So as you can see here, thicker on one side, thinner on the other. Measure just the ice and divide by 2, and what you come up with here is your total that you will report. Moving on to snow. And I don't have a way to get questions, so put your questions in the chat if you have any there, and I will be sure to get back in there and do my best to answer those in retrospect. Measuring snow, sleet, select the spot. You want to avoid any problematic areas. You don't want it to have high traffic. You need a measuring stick and a flag, some way to find your snowboard if you use it for ideal location of that board. If you don't have a board, a flat surface like a driveway is okay as long as that doesn't have a lot of traffic on it. Problematic areas might be on a deck because of the way the wind might hit up against a building. Our decks are typically close to a building, so it's not an ideal spot. You want to get away from the buildings. You want this to be somewhere easily accessible for you. So a solid level out in the open area. Avoid measuring snow and sleet depth under trees or directly next to buildings. You want to slide the ruler directly down into the sleet or snow until it reaches the ground. Read the value on the ruler to the nearest tenth of an inch if possible. Sometimes that's difficult to do, so what I will do is actually reach down with my phone and take a picture so that I can see that. Then you've got your recorded value. Repeat the steps 2 through 4 in several locations around. And then calculate those, add them together. If you take 3 measurements, divide by 3. Newly fallen snow is reported in tenths of an inch, such as 2.4 inches. Taken as soon as the snow has stopped falling, if possible, no more than 4 times a day. Take your measurements at a location where drifting does not usually occur. If you have drifts, they say take measurements in several spots away from the large drifts. Calculate the average of these measurements. Spots sheltered from the weather, such as those close to buildings or under trees, again, should be avoided. If you aren't using a snowboard, a picnic table will work. They do say a deck will work as long as it's not close to the building. I think that's kind of a repeat. Here's a very good example of using a snowboard. And he's got his poles so he can easily find it out in the yard. And if you're using a snowboard, you want to clear it after every time you measure. If you're taking measurements a couple of times a day, say there's multiple rounds of snow come through, or you go out at noon and take a measurement and 6 p.m. and take a measurement, you want to make sure that you've got a clean measurement each time. So here we go. Supplies, a ruler or yardstick. They suggest a 2 foot by 2 foot board with some sort of flag on it so you can locate it. Open area away from sheltered air, sheltered from wind. Set it up before the snow begins. Don't wait till it's falling. Good idea to set it up not in tall grass. Because although the board itself would probably be okay, it would be flatter to the ground if you had shorter grass to put it in. Um, Record the total to the nearest tenth of an inch, measure as soon as snow stops, and then send in the report. So what do we report and how do we report that? So when making your report, include the following information if known: the time you measured, and this can be sleet or ice or snow. And sleet and snow, by the way, are measured the same way. Your location as specifically as possible with a street address or highway mile marker. If unknown, give your location relative to a landmark. A mile west of New River Bridge on Highway 460, or I'm 1/2 mile due west of 65 Highway on this street. So, something to that effect, or if you have GPS coordinates in your phone that you can provide, they can use those as well. The time the snowfall or sleet began, to the best of your knowledge. Conditions of nearby roadways are also appreciated. Are they snow covered, slick, clear? And are you seeing any damage? Say this is a heavy snow and you've got tree limbs coming down. What size are those tree limbs? You have an ice storm. Are there power lines down? Are there tree limbs down? Um, we thank goodness don't get the snows they get up north. They actually have to report that roofs are collapsing. So um, we can be thankful we don't get that kind of thing. Pictures are always welcome by the National Weather Service. It really provides the truth to our reports. If you can, take a picture of your measurement, take a picture of the damage that you might be seeing, and only take the pictures if it is safe to do so. So, I'm an amateur radio operator. How do I turn in pictures? Well, you could send them to me at my Gmail address, and that is kd0ael at gmail. I will get that into them. You can just vocally give that report amateur radio. We've usually got a net control standing by that would be glad to take that report. Just get on there and say, net control, this is so and so. One of us should respond. You can Facebook to the Weather Service Messenger, and it's facebook.com/NWS Springfield. They do have a chat there that you can put pictures in and your comments. If you belong to our Facebook spotter group, the report can also be posted there, and we will forward those. We love to see your pictures too, by the way. And that's facebook.com/groups/GCM Skywarn Spotters. Sounds funny, but it started out as Greene County and Facebook wouldn't let me change it. So it's Facebook facebook.com/groups/GCM Skywarn Spotters. Another way, you can also email the National Weather Service, contact.sgf@noaa.gov, who you are, where you are, what you're reporting, and your exact location. They will absolutely get it there as well. And if there are any questions, I will be checking those and getting back as soon as possible. Another thing you can do, if you join us on the Tuesday night net of our at 7 o'clock on the 145.49 or any of the linked repeaters in our system or on Echolink, I will be on there Tuesday night. When you check in, hit me with your question. I would be glad to answer those then as well, so we can all benefit from that. And for that, I appreciate your patience, and I'm sorry for my tardiness. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you for all you do. Be blessed.